They came for us at night, just when the last glow of sunset still clung to the horizon and the fields outside our colony were wrapped in gold. I remember the stillness, the kind that makes you think the universe itself is holding its breath, right before the sky split open. Ships, sleek and silver, descended like knives tearing through silk. They didn't roar with thunder the way our old human shuttles did. No, they whispered, like predators gliding down on unsuspecting prey. The ground trembled when the first wave of fire fell, and the farm my father had worked with his bare hands lit up like dry kindling. The smell of burning wheat mixed with the screams of neighbors, and I knew that monsters were real. The Velkarii called themselves hunters, and to them, humans were nothing more than trophies to mount on their walls. They didn't see us as people. They saw us as sport, creatures to be tracked and broken. They walked through our villages in their shining armor, laughing in voices that made the air seem too thin to breathe. I remember hiding beneath the ruins of my home, the heat of the fire burning my skin, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they would hear it. I clutched a jagged piece of metal from the wreckage, useless against them, but heavy with the weight of my fear. That night, as the hunters dragged away the survivors in chains, I made a silent promise. If they wanted prey, then prey was what they would get. But I would show them what happens when prey learns to bite back. I was too young to fight, too weak to stop them, but I swore I would never forget. Their mistake had already been made. Years passed, and the world I once called home became nothing but smoke and memory. The Velkarii didn't just burn our towns, they salted the earth with their cruelty, leaving nothing but bones and silence behind. The survivors scattered like dust in the wind, fleeing to the cracks of forgotten moons and the hollow shells of abandoned stations. But humanity did not die. We adapted, as we always have. We learned to vanish into shadows, to speak in whispers, to wait. The Velkarii hunted us across systems, taking pleasure in the chase, but what they didn't understand was that every hunt left lessons carved into us, hardening us into something unrecognizable, something stronger. When I was old enough, I found my way into the resistance. It wasn't the kind of army you'd read about in history texts. There were no uniforms, no polished ranks, just survivors stitched together by pain and fury. Farmers carried rifles with trembling hands. Teachers piloted ships that rattled apart if you pushed them too hard. Miners swung hammers at armored beasts and lived to tell the tale. Each person bore a scar, a memory of what the Velkarii had taken from them, and every one of them had sworn the same vow, never again. Our ships were little more than floating scrapyards, patched together with scavenged parts, their hulls humming with desperation. But inside, there was something the Velkarii couldn't quantify or measure: will. We didn't fight because it was glorious. We fought because it was all we had left. And in those days, among the broken and the lost, I realized something. We were no longer the hunted. Slowly, quietly, we were turning the tide. The resistance wasn't about survival anymore. It was about vengeance. It was about hunting the hunters. The Velkarii lived for the chase. They hunted not for food or survival, but for the thrill of proving dominance. They believed their armor made them untouchable, their technology made them gods, and their prey had no choice but to run. I had seen them track families through forests, laughing as they fired warning shots to draw out screams. They called it sport, but it was cruelty sharpened into ritual. What they never understood was that every hunt taught us more about them, their rhythms, their weaknesses, their arrogance. And humans, more than any species I've ever known, are students of survival. On Arian, a world of jagged canyons and caves carved deep into the planet's skin, I became their target. 5 of them landed, armored hunters who stalked me as though victory was already certain. Their laughter echoed off the stone walls as they drove me deeper into the labyrinth, thinking I was desperate, cornered, broken. What they didn't realize was that I had chosen the battlefield. Every step I took was part of a plan. Every shadow, every rock, every silence was a weapon. I let them close in, their blades gleaming in the torchlight of their armor. I made them believe I was prey trembling before the kill. And then the charges I had planted lit the cavern in a blaze of fire. The explosion ripped through stone and metal, tearing the hunters from their triumph. When the dust cleared, only one of them still gasped for breath, pinned beneath shattered rock. I pressed my rifle against his throat, watching fear bloom in eyes that had never known it. "You thought we were prey," I whispered. "But you never understood what we really are." And with that, I ended him. Word of our defiance spread like sparks across dry grass, carried from one shattered colony to the next. Survivors who once believed themselves alone began to rise, answering a call older than language itself. We weren't fragments anymore. We weren't scattered dust. We were coals gathering heat, preparing to ignite. From forgotten shipyards buried beneath moons, from hidden caches long abandoned by the old Earth fleets, something powerful began to stir. It was in those hidden depths that I first laid eyes on her, the ship that would become our heart, our banner, our vengeance. She was a corpse when we found her. A battleship, rusted and silent, buried in the black of a derelict dock. Her name was the Revenant. The Velkarii had left her to rot, never imagining that prey would breathe life into her again. But we did. Piece by piece, scrap by scrap, we rebuilt her. Not with precision, not with the sterile perfection of the hunter's craft, but with rage and memory. Every welded plate, every humming engine carried the weight of our promise. The Revenant wasn't just a machine. She became something alive, something that pulsed with the same fury in our veins. When she finally rose into the void, her engines growling like an ancient beast awoken from slumber, even the stars seemed to tremble. The Velkarii didn't notice at first. They still believed the humans they had scattered could never unite, never strike back. But when the Revenant bared her teeth for the first time above Vena, tearing apart a Velkarii flagship with fire so bright it turned night into dawn, the illusion shattered. For the first time, the hunters knew what it was to be hunted. For the first time, the galaxy saw that humanity had not died, it had been reborn. The Velkarii had always believed in numbers. Their fleet stretched across the stars, hundreds of warships bristling with weapons and arrogance. They thought mass alone would crush us, that if they drowned us in fire, we would finally surrender to the silence they craved. What they didn't understand was that humans never truly fight alone. Every victory we won lit a spark, and those sparks became a blaze too bright to contain. Rebels, exiles, pirates, even those who had once turned their backs on humanity now rallied to our side. The Revenant wasn't just a ship anymore, it was a symbol, a storm gathering momentum with every battle. I will never forget the void above Oris Prime. The Velkarii came with their armada, dark shapes blotting out the stars, a wave of death sweeping forward. The Revenant led our ragged fleet into the storm, her patched hull glowing with defiance. On the comms, voices crackled, miners turned pilots, farmers flying crafts that barely held together, soldiers who had survived too many losses. No one expected to live. But no one turned away. The first exchange tore the sky apart. Velkarii beams lanced through space, ripping our smaller ships to pieces, yet still we advanced. Our guns answered in thunder, ripping holes into their perfect formations. I remember gripping the controls, the hull trembling as enemy fire scorched across our shields. The galaxy had always seen us as fragile, but in that moment, surrounded by fire and steel, I felt something else entirely, an unbreakable calm. We were no longer prey scrambling for survival. We were hunters, each shot driven by vengeance, every maneuver guided by memory. In the heart of that storm, humanity was reborn in fire, and the Velkarii realized too late that the hunt had turned against them. Victory never came easily. Each engagement with the Velkarii demanded a toll far beyond what any of us imagined. Entire squadrons vanished in blinding flashes of their weapons, entire colonies trembled under the weight of their retaliation. Fire and smoke became constant companions, their acrid scent clinging to everything we touched. Every time we triumphed, it was tinged with loss, every step forward felt like climbing a mountain built on the bones of the fallen. Yet, with each scar, each burned hull, each shattered crew, we grew stronger. Humanity was no longer scattered and desperate. We were relentless, learning, adapting, evolving with every encounter. The Velkarii began to sense it too. Their hunts, once confident and cruel, shifted into hesitation. Their arrogance gave way to caution, their precision laced with fear. They whispered among themselves in a language I had begun to recognize in fragments, a name they now used for us. Veikard *, it meant apex predator, a title they never thought they would ever need to utter. And yet, the word hung heavy in their comms, a recognition of the lethal force they had underestimated. Even in moments of triumph, the cost of war pressed on us. Cities we liberated were scarred, families left fractured, and hope itself sometimes felt fragile, a flicker in the darkness. But the memory of our stolen homes, of the nights we ran while their fires devoured our past, kept our resolve sharp. Every human in our fleet carried that memory like a blade hidden beneath their armor, waiting for the moment to strike. We pushed onward, each victory a step closer to balance, each battle a lesson in patience and precision. Slowly, system by system, the tide of the galaxy began to turn. The Velkarii were no longer hunters, they were being hunted, and the first whispers of panic rippled through their fleets. Humanity, once underestimated, had become a force they could no longer ignore, a predator that would not rest until the scales had been righted. I stand now on the bridge of the Revenant, the hum of her engines vibrating beneath my feet, the stars outside streaking past in streaks of cold white light. The Velkarii homeworld burns below, oceans of fire and ash consuming the monuments of their arrogance. It is not pride that fills me, nor joy. It is a colder, sharper satisfaction, the kind that comes when justice is finally measured and delivered. The galaxy has witnessed their empire crumble, their fleet scattered like broken toys, and still I feel none of the celebrations others might expect. This is not triumph, it is the fulfillment of a promise carved into my memory decades ago, beneath the ruins of my childhood home. They made the deadliest mistake imaginable. They thought that hunting humans was sport, that our bones would line their halls as trophies. They believed our screams would fade into silence, that our resistance would crumble beneath the weight of their firepower. But humans do not bow, do not vanish quietly into the dark. We adapt. We endure. We fight. And when we rise with everything we have. The galaxy will remember this war. Scholars will write of it, poets will try to capture it, bards will spin tales of humans who were once prey and became predators. Yet none of them will fully understand the depths of our will, the fires that burned in every survivor's chest, the cold patience that allowed us to strike back at the perfect moment. We hunted them, not for conquest, not for glory, but because they had chosen to mistake us for nothing more than prey. And now, as I look out over the smoldering ruins of their civilization, I know the truth that will echo across time. The Velkarii made the galaxy's deadliest mistake. They hunted humans, and humans always hunt back. The lesson is etched in every star, in every scar, in every vessel of our fleet. They will never forget us, and neither will the universe. Humanity has arrived, unbroken, unstoppable, and unrelenting.